Reverend Dr. Katie here, and I have a question for you. Why is it so hard for so many of us to make ourselves a priority and to put ourselves first? Women, especially, I'm talking to you because this is a tried and true problem for so many women out there, especially those up in a Christian environment where service was really prioritized and where we were taught that giving and giving and giving is the best thing to do, but prioritizing yourself, taking care of yourself was not okay. This really struck home to me a few years ago when I was working with youth and we were talking about prayer. And I could tell that many of them were just kind of jittery about it. They had been told that prayer was important, but didn't actually know how to pray. So we were kind of working on skills on how to pray. And we talked about the importance of praying for yourself. And every last one of them, the boys and the girls, but especially the girls, were so uncomfortable with the idea that they could pray for themselves. They felt like it was selfish. So this is a super problem that many of us have. Even if you're comfortable praying for yourself, you may still face the problem of making yourself a low priority in your own life. That's the crazy part, right? This is our own lives, yet we don't always prioritize them. And so this is so incredibly hard for Christians to do, especially Christian women, and the reasons go on and on and on. But, in our spiritual lives, we kind of have to put ourselves first, or we're never going to have the opportunity to grow. If we actually don't prioritize ourselves, we never advance, we never move forward spiritually, we never have a deeper spiritual life. It actually requires us to take the time and to prioritize ourselves. And so it's so easy not to do that. It's so easy to get up and get right to work, to making lunches. If you have a family at home, then you're taking care of them and getting them on their way. If you're on your own, it's really easy to get distracted with media consumption or with friends, with other things that are maybe for yourself, but not actually prioritizing yourself. So there's a big difference between doing things for yourself and prioritizing yourself. So when we don't prioritize ourselves, we can find a lot of mental tricks to fill the time. We can find a lot of ways to distract ourselves. It can be with media consumption. It can be with mindless things that outlast their usefulness. It's okay to have mindless things to be mindless for a little while, but when they actually intrude on the time when we are to be mindful or prioritizing ourselves, then that's kind of part of the problem. So when we don't manage to prioritize ourselves, when we don't really take that time for our own inner self, or to hear our own voice, to hear our own inner wisdom, a lot of fallout can end up happening, and that can happen in the short term, over a day or a week or a month. It can also happen over years, over decades. We all know people who have not prioritized themselves for decades in the name of service, but in doing so neglected themselves that their spiritual lives become almost bankrupt. Like they feel so empty. They feel that deep, deep emptiness. And then the cycle starts all over with the distraction and games and media consumption instead of actually turning to that interior life. And so I think the really beautiful news is that we're really reaching a kind of pivot point in our culture where we're really waking up to the fact that making our own health, our own spirituality, our own spiritual health a priority is necessary, and it's not a selfish act. In fact, it is a selfless act to put ourselves first, because when we do that and we can nurture ourselves, we can be so much more present. And when we are fulfilled, we're actually teaching other people in our lives that that's a value. So for those of you who do struggle with this, especially for those of you with kids and the kids are looking at you, I want to invite you to ask yourself a question. What are you teaching your children, especially your daughters, and especially boys who will be interacting with women for the rest of their lives, when you don't prioritize yourself? You're teaching them that you're expendable. And then you're teaching them that they are expendable, or that other people in their life will be expendable. Right? And that's definitely not the lesson. That's exactly the opposite of what we want to demonstrate to the world. I even had to really face this problem like with my own family. Don't have little kids at home, but I had to really show other members of my family and my friend circle that I could take time for myself and I could prioritize my own learning. And in doing so, I could be more present and more available to them. This was a huge lesson for me. And when I stopped kind of distracting myself from and kind of caving to other people's desires, things really started opening up. And in fact, that's partly one of the ways that my spiritual life started to emerge, and that I started to be able to go to the deeper places. I started to be able to communicate with my spirit team and really establish that and take care of myself and my chakra system. It was really, really out of whack at the time when I wasn't prioritizing myself. And as soon as I started prioritizing myself and my spiritual journey, the magic started flowing. And so for Jesus followers, for Christians, this is actually a very Jesus-centric thing that we can do, because Jesus was always taking time for himself and going off to pray, to be in communion. And so when we do prioritize our spiritual lives, we are being Christ-like. Now, I'm not saying to be a jerk, right? I'm not saying that you have to go off for like 6 months at a time and prioritize yourself and never be in community, never be with people that you love. What I am saying is that prioritizing yourself is a metaphysical and spiritual good. It's a metaphysical and spiritual act to be able to do that. And it's something that each and every one of you absolutely deserve in your life. So if this is resonating with you and you are wanting to grow in your spiritual life, you haven't quite been sure how to get started, you haven't made it the priority that you want to make it in your own life, you might consider coming to the training that is happening this Sunday. So in just a few days, and it's called Bridge the Gap. We're going to talk about your spiritual journey. We're going to do some exercises around intuition, going to talk a little bit about your energy body, your subtle body, how you can awaken that, how you can start to bridge the gap between where you are now and the spiritual journey that you want to have. And when you can do that by prioritizing yourself, you'll be amazed at the deep roots that you can grow and the bridges that you can build in your own spiritual life. So the link is below. There's always replays available if you can't make it live. I would love to have you there. And everyone go out, make yourself a priority today. You are absolutely worth it. Can't wait to hear about how that looks and feels for you. And we'll talk to everyone soon.